But I mean, you'll get to a point where, you can do that. Okay? Does it make sense? And some of you guys that read a lot, like read books or read magazines all the time, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? You can read ahead a little bit forward before you're even reading that sentence, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, you probably don't read a lot or whatever, but you can. So start doing it now in school, okay? Carefully find the place that you were requested to read, then read slowly, deliberately, and loudly. When you think that you are reading loud enough, increase the intensity of your voice a little more and project your voice out and beyond your notes. This technique helps to keep your reading speed slow enough to enable you to look ahead constantly in your notes so that you can see trouble spots and decipher them in advance. Exactly what I just told you. Okay? And it'll make sense once you start practicing it. Okay? Why readback situations occur? Readbacks usually occur for specific reasons. The original question may have become so garbled that it needs to be rephrased, and to rephrase it, the attorney who asked the question needs to know what he or she said. So I'm telling you, almost, I'd say 80%, 75 maybe. But when you're in a deposition and somebody objects to something, you're probably going to read back, okay? Well, I object to the form of the question. What was the deal with the question? Well, I can object to the form of the question. I can object to the form. That's what we're allowed to do. Okay, well, I mean, geez, take it easy, guy, or, whatever. Sir, ma'am, go ahead and answer that question. I don't even remember what the question was. Do you? No? Reporter, read it back, and it's coming. It's coming. Because usually the witness is so engulfed in what the two attorneys are doing that their mind is gone past that question. And if you kind of pay attention, you'll find that your mind kind of gets that way too. And they say, oh, read back that question. Oh, shoot, what was that question? No big deal. Go on your little machine. It's got the little thing, last cue. Goes back to the last question. Read it back. Goes back to the last question. Okay. Question. When was the last time that you saw the red car moving? Hands on your machine, ready to go. Y'all see what I was doing before when they said read back? I got my computer screen and I'm like reading ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay. Question. And if they're like, hey, let's go. Whoa, what are you doing? Read it back. Hey, relax, little man. I'm reading ahead a little bit. And most of the time they're not going to tell you anything. They know what you're kind of doing. Okay? You're kind of setting up. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, no, I was just, and if they ask you, hey, whoa, Missy, let's go. What are you doing? Sir, I'm just checking my spot. I just wanted to make sure that it was the right spot or whatever. Okay, no problem. No big deal. But if you're like, is it hot in here? Don't get ridiculous about it, I mean, if your notes were that bad, but always try to stay in control, okay? Sometimes a witness may not hear the question or is thinking about the question, or in thinking about the question, wish to have it read back in order to give him or her more time to formulate it proper. And sometimes they do that. Hey, did you kill that guy in 1941? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question? I didn't understand it. And you'll have it all the time. Were you smoking that cocaine on Saturday? I didn't understand that question. Really? Pretty straightforward. But these cats, I mean, they know, you know, a lot of times what they're doing. So it's like, can you rephrase that? Yeah. Did you do the cocaine on Saturday? Oh, that's what you were asking. You know, so, I mean, you'll find it. You'll find it. And you know what? Go sit in my old court. They do it all. Even the caseworkers do it. Caseworkers will do it too. Oh, it's so funny. We had one that used to do it all the time. And we used to make fun, but not make fun or whatever. But it was like, even on State Your Name. Can you rephrase that? Really? So, I mean, you know, you kind of know, and they kind of know. And they're just kind of biding time to find the proper answer in their head. They haven't thought about it enough to get the proper answer or whatever, so. Sometimes an immediate objection is made to the question asked by the opposing counsel. If the objection to the question is overruled, the witness must answer the question, and the attorney who asked the question will usually ask that the reporter read it back. In other cases, a certain point may come out during the testimony that relates to a previous section of testimony. Attorneys may ask the court reporters to go back and find that portion of the testimony and read it back. During statements and depositions, the questioner and even sometimes a witness may ask for something to be read back. Other readback situations occurs during jury deliberations and during the arguing of a legal point in a judge's chambers. A court may be asked to read to the jury the entire testimony of a defendant or a witness. Has it happened? Yeah. Does it very often? No. Judges are usually pretty cool with us, and they're like, you know what? That doctor was on the stand for 4 hours, and my court reporter is not going to read back that whole testimony. If you have a specific question, we don't remember what he said. For 4 hours, you have a memory lapse complete for 4 hours. And I had a judge say that one time to a jury. For 4 hours, you weren't paying attention? For 4 hours? No. You had a pad and pencil to take notes. You should have been taking notes. If not, then you just go on your recollection of what you think he said. And my reporter's not reading that whole thing back. You have a specific question? I don't know. Then go on what you think. How to read back. In reading back, read only what is in your notes. If you come to a difficult section in your notes, read it back as best you can. Lawyers and witnesses often speak in broken sentences. Read back broken and dashed sentences just as they were spoken. So you're going to read it back exactly the way that they said it. And not like that. But if they said, did you go to the store? Well, you went to the store, but then you got in the red car, y'all drove off. Anyway, did you go to the store? Holy cow, really? Objection to the form of that question. Yeah, overruled. Answer that question. Huh? Yeah, Mr. Reporter, go ahead and read that back. So when you're having to do inflections, you kind of do it the same. So that's why you practice reading back. Because even if, you're taking things, and I did it, and not really on purpose, but I've done it, where you're reading something and you get kind of jumbled up and you go back and read it, again, or read it back the way that it was said, okay? That helps you in reading back. Because if you go, did you go to the store and you went to the store and you got in the red car But y'all went to the, and you went to the thing, and then y'all went, anyway, did you go to the store? Really? I mean, it was worse than the question he just asked. Your readback was worse than the question he asked, and the question wasn't good either. Okay? But if you read it back, like, did you go to the store? You went to the store, and then you were in the red car. Y'all came around anyway. Did you go to the store? So if you take your time and read it back the way that they read it, it's going to come out a lot better, and it's not going to reflect on you, okay? Because they're going to say, one, the other attorney may say, I didn't even understand the read back. She read it back great. And I didn't even understand it then. I didn't understand it when you asked, much less when she read it back, and she read it back just the way you said it. Ask another question. And say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll just ask another question. But they asked you to read it back, so you had to read it back. Do you understand what I'm telling you guys about taking your time? That's where it comes in, taking your time. Try to cultivate a pleasant, well-modulated voice with just enough expression to make sure that everyone understands the words that you speak. If a witness has been highly dramatic and given testimony, do not try to mimic the witness. Your job isn't try to mimic the witness. You know, so, I mean, you have somebody and they're like, Lord, please. Don't ask me that question, you know, and we need you to read that back. And you go, Lord, please. You know, and it's just like, you know, answer, Lord, please. Don't ask me that question. You're just reading back the question. You're not giving back the expression of, you know, this whole thing, okay? That's not your job.
It sounds so boring the second way.
I know. You want to find yourself in deep of trouble. Finding and marking readback spots. Court reporters need to devise a method of finding a certain place in their notes for instant readback. You can be almost certain that a readback will be called for after an objection and the colloquy that follows. And I just told you guys that. You know, whenever an objection comes, you can always... So it's real easy now because the machines now have the last question. So usually it's the last question that was asked. So even if it was the last answer, the machines don't have the last answer, but it has the last question. So you go back to the last question and then you can arrow up and down from there. So then you just kind of arrow up or down to where you need to go. Okay? Keep your mind on what is happening, and you will usually remember the general vicinity of any passage that may be requested. You will soon develop a sixth sense that warns you that a readback is imminent regarding testimony or a controversial argument. So if you take the depo of certain guys, you know, all the time, and it's your client, then you're going to kind of know when he or she does readbacks. You know what? It's every time the other attorney objects. Or it's like, never. And I had attorneys who would do that. They already knew what they were asking. Did you go to the store? I object to the form of that. Well, you can object. Well, yeah, I can. Didn't, yeah, you can. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, they have to answer. Go ahead, you can answer. I don't remember the question. Did you go to the store? Oh, yeah. So they already know. So they have, a lot of times, really good attorneys are going to have like questions that they already have printed out. So they already kind of know in what direction they're going and what they've asked. You know, what they're asking, you know. When readbacks that have long preliminary statements are requested, try to read only the questions. On the other hand, if counsel asks for a question to be read back and the last question is only one word or does not make sense by itself, Read the preceding question and answer also. I don't know. I'd read back what they asked me to read back. You know what? Read back the last question. What? Oh, no. The question before that. Oh, okay. Well, that was the last question. Question. What? The court reporter must record who requested the readback in the notes. Some reporters draw a straight line across their notes at the beginning of the portion of the readback at the end so that they can insert the proper parentheticals. Guys, it's in your notes. I don't know that makes sense. Because you're going to have the attorney, so you're keeping track. You got your speaker identifications. You already know who asked for the readback. You don't have to mark it in your notes. I don't know what they're asking for that. Reading back to the jury. Juries often forget what a witness said during testimony, or they cannot remember which witness said a certain thing. Sometimes, too, they think they heard a certain thing, but their memories are faulty. In such cases, the reporter is called on to read portions of the transcript back to the jury. In some cases, one or two questions and answers may be read. In other cases, the entire testimony might be read back. It doesn't happen very often, guys, anymore. But, I mean, I wouldn't say never. So, when reading back to the jury, the reporter should face the jury, use a microphone if one is provided, and read slowly because jurors may want to take notes. Many times reporters will not have an opportunity to review their notes before reading back. They would need to look ahead in their notes to see whether objections are coming up, and if they are sustained, skip the question, ruling, and discussion. The advantage of having time to prepare for a readback situation is the opportunity to go through your notes and mark the areas that should not be read. So sometimes you have an opportunity to do it, sometimes you don't. Your reading must be totally verbatim, that is, word for word, as the outcome of the case may hinge on the matter requested to be read. Read fluently, clearly, and loudly so that you can be heard by all. Do not show emotion because you might have an influence on the jury. So your job is not to mimic the witness or blah 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 and whatever. That's not your job. Your job is just to read back what they said. Okay? If you come to a poor spot in your notes that may take some time to translate and you have been reading a lengthy portion of the record, it has been suggested that you ask the question, have I read the part that you wish to hear, or something similar? If the requesting party says yes, you need to read more. Good reporters read back with authority, vigor, and clarity so that there is seldom any question as to the accuracy of what is being read. Testifying in open court. Sometimes court reporters are required to take the witness stand and testify as to the contents of their transcripts and the accuracy of their notes. That's just what I was telling you about that I had to do in that deposition. So we went down to the courthouse, and it's like I'm on the stand and they're asking questions to me. Read that last question back of where he said blah blah blah. So I had to read back, what he said, okay? What to do when testifying. If you're called to testify regarding a matter that you have reported, take your original notes to the court with you. Arrive early so that you have an opportunity to discuss the testimony with the attorney who requested your presence. Some attorneys who see notes that contain other markings may question why the notes are marked up. So, if you're going to do that, be careful. Because they may say, well, what were you doing? Why are they marked up? And if it's the other side and your client, you rode with your client and all of a sudden there's markings on your notes. Yeah. So be careful with that. Okay? Answer all questions honestly and courteously. If attorneys become rude or seem to question your ability, do not become defensive and retaliate. You should pride yourself on the work that you do and always act professional in any type of situation. Yes. Types of questions to expect. After you are placed under oath, you will be asked to state your name, address, and business or profession. Next, you will be questioned about your education, qualifications, and experience as a court reporter. Be totally honest but not modest that you do not prove that you are capable of doing your job and doing it well. Inform the attorneys and the court about the months of training that you have to undergo to get where you are. I don't know. I mean, in the times that I've done that, I've never been asked my credentials or whatever. One of the most common questions that the attorney will ask a reporter who is testifying is whether witnesses sometimes speak so rapidly that you cannot keep up with them. The good answer would reflect the fact that you stop witnesses when they speak too rapidly and ask them to repeat the testimony, and that you have enough reserve speed due to your training, and stopping a witness almost never happens. Okay? So, sometimes they'll ask, well, what's your accuracy? Well, 95% is what we're required. Well, so it's not 100. Nothing's 100. But 95 is pretty close. You will be asked whether the transcript you have identified as your work is a true and correct translation of your original notes, and specifically the particular portion in question. Some discussion and questions regarding how a transcript is produced, and in particular how you produce your transcript, may occur. If you use a scopus or a proofreader, questions may arise as to their qualifications and whether they are competent. Yeah. You may be asked to read from your transcript or from your notes. Always arrive prepared with your notes. The attorney asking the question may feel that you are reading from your notes is much more effective than being asked questions concerning the transcript. An objection may be made by some attorneys that the transcript is not the best evidence, but the testimony should be elicited from the original notes. Yeah, sometimes. Reporting and testifying. At some point in your career, you may be called to testify about your own notes, and because you are the only court reporter in the area, you may have to take your own testimony. Although this situation does not happen very often, as a rule, you would write the question posed by the person asking the question and write your answer without saying anything verbally. Does that make sense? I don't know that you'd ever be asked to do that, but whatever. General guidelines. Always be totally honest in all of your answers. If you do not remember something, say so. If other witnesses were to testify differently, you would have a credibility problem. Testify forthright and confidently. Always keep in mind that judges, attorneys, juries, and the public want to believe that you, as a court reporter, do a fine job day after day. You must do your part to help them believe in you by being a good witness when called on to testify. Yes. So it's just being truthful. Always be professional as you can, and always project forward. Okay? Any questions about that section? No? All right. 15. And 16. And 17. 17 is not a whole lot of reading. It's more of just going through the transcript itself. So So 15, 16, and 17. Okay, we'll see you all on Monday.